All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's challenge, lovingly called Spewing. That will become obvious why I've called it Spewing relatively shortly. Hope you're all well. And just if you could just let us know, as always, that you can hear me, see the spewing. I think you must see the spewing, so that's good. Pardon me. So that is excellent. Very good. Awesome. All right. Great. So in our story so far, last week we went through, and what was really gratifying to see in the Facebook group was how surprised you were at how much information you have absorbed about your fun practice market, the pains and the solutions over the course of our journey so far on the challenge. And what I was hoping to show to you and give you a little bit of confidence for, we need to do more drills, more practice, but hopefully to show you that if you're actually familiar with the latest techniques in neuroscience, that you'll actually find tasks and activities that were traditionally very difficult for you because they haven't been changed since they were taught in the 1800s to what we know now. And that is particularly exciting. And so today we're going to continue on with that journey, that process, and we are going to be spewing together. Now, spewing, for those of you who are not familiar, is an Australian slang term for vomit. And why are we talking about spewing and vomiting? Well, I'm about to explain. So, but first of all, I just want to remind you that what you will need this week is, you recall at the end of last week, what we talked about was having the, let's get a highlight color going here. We talked about creating a mind map for the solution, which is this part. Actually, let's use this. So the solution to the number one pain point. And then when I left you, the last thing I wanted you to do was to just do a basic review of which, like if you were to put a logical order to the mind map, how would you do that mind map? And so we sort of like, okay, this is obviously the first thing we talk about. This is the second thing we talk about. This is the third thing we would talk about. So that's where we left things. Okay, so you've got a mind map. You've done a basic little bit of ordering, but that's about it. So what are we going to do this week? Okay, so in our first session, 2 pages of notes this week. 2 pages. Goodness me. Two whole pages. What we're going to do in our first day, is first of all, we're going to choose a pen that'll write. So our day 1 session this week is, I want you to spend 10 minutes editing your mind map. Okay. So you might want to tidy it up. You might want to, if you didn't do the ordering, for example, I noticed, Byron, you said that. That's okay, no problem. This is actually a good time to do it. In fact, if I was really thinking through it, I probably should have waited for this. But you've been resting with your mind map over the weekend or whenever you did it. So on day 1, which is typically Monday for most people, I want you to edit your mind map. You might want to just look at it again with fresh eyes. You might make some changes. You may change some orders of different things, may correct some spelling. do all of those things, and make sure that they have you know, edited as you like. I want you to spend 10 minutes, as always, and particularly through this part of the process. A timer is crucial. And I think one of the gratifying things, having a look at all the feedback and comments in the Facebook group, it's been really gratifying to see how the use of a timer is really starting to bite for people. And I'm really excited about that. So that is good news. And funnily enough, speaking of, if you're watching the YouTube video and you're not a member of our Facebook group, you really should be, particularly this week for reasons that will become obvious very soon. But it's a great area where people give feedback about the various exercises and what they learned and all sorts of interesting. It's really, really interesting stuff. And I think having a group of people that are doing the challenge together is very powerful indeed. So check that out. It's just go onto Facebook and search All New Challenge and you will be good to go. Also, while you're here, don't forget to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell. All those sorts of things. My daughters hate it when I say that, but I love it. So it's really cool. So don't forget to do that while you're here. Okay, so day one, our first 10 minutes is editing the mind map. We're going to order it, just, tinker. You might think of some new categories. You have a fresh look, and we thought, I can't believe I didn't remember the kielbasa sausage. How could I not forget that? And how could I not forget sausage length? I didn't talk anything about how sausage length affects taste when it comes to your sausage. A short little stubby sausage or a super big long one, and how much thickness affects the taste of a sausage. All of these things I forgot in my initial mind map of my sausage making. And I didn't, of course, girth and length make dramatic differences to the mouthfeel and sensation of your sausage in your mouth, and that all important taste, right? All of these things are crucial. I forgot about that. So we're going to spend 10 minutes editing our mind map, fresh look with a timer, 10 minutes. Then we're going to have 5 minutes to, you guessed it, break. Now, we all, hopefully you are learning why breaks are important in the middle of these processes. Typically what a break does is it's a brain interrupt. And typically what happens is we do these brain interrupts in a non-conscious way, and it means all of a sudden we're a squirrel, right? And we're looking at something completely different, or porg. We're distracted in some sort of way, and that's bad, right? Because we get distracted, and then we get, and all of a sudden we just look up, and it happened to me on the weekend. I was on my phone and I'm meant to look up one thing, and I actually got distracted, and 15 minutes later I still hadn't actually gone and got the thing that I wanted to get on the phone, right? It happens to the best of us. So that's part of the craziness here, right? So so what's important for us is when we're doing these deliberate breaks, have a number of things. One is that they activate the for our purposes, we'll call it the subconscious part of the brain. There's actually a hell of a lot more science, but you're not here to learn neuroscience. You're here to create a business. So just go with me on the fact that by doing this, we engage the part of the brain that we want to engage for the next part of the process. And that's why a timed break and using a timer is very important, because like I said, you could, think, okay, I'm just going to have a 5-minute break, and you wake up from your trance and you've blown 30 minutes and you've lost your 25-minute session, which I should have said day one is a 25-minute session. Okay, I should have said that. 25-minute sesh, as all the trendy people call it. Or me. I don't know if it's just me or it's trendy people. I am not sure. Okay. Then, and you high fact finders, this is just for you. You are going to love this. You've been hanging out for it. You've been absolutely, you've been desperate to do this entire time. I'm finally going to allow you off the hook and let you do something that is natural to you and is completely unnatural to us high quick starts. What I want you to do is then create a formal outline. Okay, I want you to spend 10 minutes and take all of the stuff on your mind map, right? And just take that logical order of sequence. So we've got steps 1, and you might have A, B, C, right? I don't want you to write it all. I just want you to do an outline, right? So you're formalizing that mind map into sections of what's important, okay, and however many sections you have, okay. So that is key to that part of the process. Okay, so that is going to be our first part of today. Now, I want to take a quick break and just give you for a suggested outline, if you will, just some of the things that I like to see in terms of an outline. Because remember, the objective here, let's never lose sight of what we're doing. Okay, so what's our objective? Right, we are talking about explaining the solution that we chose from our matrix, explaining the solution on how to solve the number one pain point. Okay. That's what we're doing. Never, ever, ever lose sight of that. This whole point has always been about how do we explain the solution of how to solve the number one pain point in our super fun practice market. Actually, interesting point. I noticed a couple of people in the Facebook group saying things like, "Oh, I think I picked the wrong market. Oh, blah 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 blah," for whatever reason. Right? No, you didn't pick the wrong market. Have I ever said, here's the test that we use to choose whether you've picked a wrong market or not? No, I haven't, because you haven't. First of all, there is Dale's law, which is every market is a market, right? Every market is a $10,000 month market. And Paul Klein, you have hit it on the head. 2 points for Gryffindor. You're absolutely right. It's practice, right? You picked a fun market which you enjoy to practice in. So there can be so unless you have decided that the market isn't fun anymore, which sort of seems a bit weird, but that's the only reason you've picked the wrong market, is you've realized, wow, this market's not fun. I thought this market would be fun, but it's not fun. And I'm not sure how that would happen, but that's the only way you could have picked a wrong market, is if it's not a fun market, because there's no wrong markets, right? There is just no wrong markets. So there's no way you could have picked a wrong market. And there's no way you could pick a wrong pain, because we're just picking a pain. And there's no way you could pick a wrong solution, because the solution is just what we came up with the matrix. I could have pulled that matrix out of my butt, for all you know. I didn't, but let's just move on. Okay, so that's our objective. Now, I'm a fan of story. I think stories are incredibly powerful for all sorts of reasons, which I won't go into here. But whenever I'm trying to think about explaining something, you can't go wrong with thinking about the classic 3-act structure. Your act 1, your act 2, and your act 3. If you've been to a play or you've been to, any movie, they basically follow a 3-act structure. Even songs do this. Anything really does this. It's the beginning, right? the beginning, the middle, and the end. Right, this three-act structure is so permeated in our culture, every culture around the world, that it makes sense if we're explaining something. If we use a sort of a three-act structure and we think about a story, then it's not too bad an idea to, when we're doing our outline, to be thinking about, okay, well, how do we outline this as a story? So when we think about what is in each part of this, so if we look at Act 1. So the first part, if you think about Act 1, it's why am I going to listen to this story? Why am I going to spend any time reading, watching, listening, etc., 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 whatever it is? And notice I haven't said anything about media because it's not important right now. Oh, the other thing that you'll be super excited about, high fact finders and you typists out there, by the way, from now on, you're allowed to type on your computer. You don't have to handwrite, okay? So from this point forward until I tell you otherwise, you can absolutely be typing away. You can type away for your outline and you can type away as when we're spewing. So you can do that as well. So, yeah, Michelle, yay. So that's great. Okay, so let's have a look here. So Act 1, Part 1, whatever you want to call it. Why am I going to give you the time of day? We're bombarded with stuff. It used to be in the old days, the problem was, how do you sort the crap stuff from the good stuff, right? In terms of what you're going to spend your time consuming content. Now, there's just so much awesome stuff that you've got a pile of awesome stuff to go through, right? So it's not even a matter of the waste of time stuff. It's the awesome stuff that you've got a metaphorical pile of stuff to do. So it's very important that in the first act of anything that we do, we really make people care. And the way to make people care in a non-fiction sense is to explain why they're doing this, why they're reading this. Now, the cool thing is this is not a guessing game for us, because when we look about what should we have in there, they're looking at this piece of content, reading, listening, whatever it is. I haven't mentioned the media, right? They came here because they're experiencing a pain. Now, I use the word pain, but in some markets, the pain might be a super fun pain. In other words, what sort of stylus should I use on my record player? Does it make a difference if I make my sausages thin and long or really thick with girth? What's that going to do to my mouthfeel and seasoning flavors when I look at sausages that way, right? That's not a pain point, like a horrible pain point, like, my goodness, I'm suffering migraines and I'm at the end of my tether. All right. So we talk about, so the reason why people are here is because they are looking to get a solution to pain point 1. So we have to remind them in Act 1 that this is the pain point. This is, and the reason why they want to go from that pain point, right? You have to show them the promised land, right? So what will they, and remember when we talked about with every pain, there is a gain. Now, typically markets talk about pain points as usual. The classic was, I think it was a political consultant. Really should remember the actual quote, but you've probably heard the phrase yourself. People always slow down for a car accident, but they rarely slow down for a beautiful sunset. Right. And that's just life. We've done that. It's evolution has made us that way. So people are often talking about pain. So we want to remind people why they're there. And so we talk about the pain so they know they're in the right place. Oh, yeah, no, this person gets it. There's some empathy, right? They recognize themselves in this part of the process. And then we talk about why. And then the reason is show them the benefit. What do they gain? What does life look like? What does life look like? Life look like post solution. solution. That's what we want to have a look at, right? So what does life look like post-solution? So, if you choose a moving coil cartridge over a moving magnet cartridge, you will find that you are able to hear many more subtleties out of a particular record. It's like you have a new record because you'll be able to hear sounds that the magnetic cartridge just wasn't able to pick up. And so you paint the picture of what it means. If you imagine being migraine free next week, how would that feel? What would you be able to do, right? So you're painting a picture of why they want to pay attention in this marketplace, right? That in wherever, this piece of content, why are they going to pay attention? And that's what I like to see in Act 1. There's one further thing, though, in Act 1 that I think is very important, and that is prep. Okay, is there anything that they need? Because there's nothing more frustrating than going, right? There's nothing more frustrating than getting super excited about that. But if you need something, right, and you don't have it, then you feel frustrated. So prep is, what do they need? Now, it may only be that they need 10 minutes of their time. They don't need anything. Maybe that's part of the power of the solution, that they don't need anything to solve their particular problem. That's awesome. But if they do need something, it is very important for you to do that. Okay. And just a question there, post, that's correct. It also means after. Okay. After the solution. What does life look like after the solution? Okay. So that's our Act 1. Our Act 2. Oh, let's use a darker color. So our Act 2 is literally all about the steps of the solution. Let's not get fancy here. We just want to show, here are the things you need to do to move from the pain of the situation to the gain of the situation. And there'll be any number of steps based on your research and based upon what you've done. Now, there may be some anxiety at this point, saying, well, hang on, Ed, I'm not 100% sure. Well, what if I said that I know for certain that you already know this, you just need a way of accessing it, and I'm about to give you a way of accessing it. Okay, so just like I surprised you last week with how much you knew about the particular solution, because basically I've been programming you for that solution for the last 4 weeks, same here, right? You've already been working hard on this process without you even realizing it. Okay, and that's the power of this stuff, right? There's just so much of peak performance is just understanding how much your mind actually absorbs. And again, I use the term unconsciously. It's wrong. It's wrong, but it's easiest for you to understand, right? How much you absorb, and then as long as you understand how to unlock that, how much is actually there. And you've proved it to yourself time and time again. So just take this little stretch moment and you'll be able to do it again. So Act 2 is really, really simple. It's the steps, all right? So you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, right? That's it. Okay, so that's your Act 2. And then in Act 3, I really like a bunch of things, and it depends on the topic what is really cool. You might have a checklist of those steps, right? You might have a list of, here's 5 great YouTube videos to go and watch. Right? And again, you fact finders, you must be loving this. You must be loving this part. References. Here's a great chance to reference all the source material that you use to create the article. with links. People are saying, oh, well, I don't want to link to people because, you know, I might lose my customers. Rubbish. Complete and utter rubbish. You build trust by crediting other creators' work. You know, if there's one thing that the podcast revolution and even bigger, the YouTube revolution has shown, that creators helping other creators is far more positive to both businesses than trying to keep everything to yourself, right? So it's just good practice. And there's actually a whole bunch of other reasons it's good, but I won't get into those right now. It's because it's sort of beyond the scope of what we're doing. So your act 3 can be, you know, a checklist, or it could be, you don't have to, you could just have one of these, right? It just doesn't really matter, but you really, you know, and the most important part of any act 3 is the call to action in a non-fiction sense of the word, is a call to action. So go and do it. And down the track, when you've got, you know, when you've got products and services and websites and all sorts of cool stuff, you'll tell them to go here, or you'll tell them specifically what you want them to do next after they've read this article. So tell them what to do next. So it may be just in the early stages, just go solve your pain and let me know how it went. Tell them to go solve problem. All right, so that's your that as a suggestion for an outline. To me, that is a great structure, if you will. So again, just to remind you, so day 1, our session for day 1, 10 minutes editing your mind map, 5-minute break, 10-minute outline. Okay. And then we reviewed some ideas about what an outline would look like. Okay. So at the end of day 1, we have our outline, and we have, we've got our mind map, we've got our outline, we're ready to go. So let's talk about day 2. Day 2 will also be a 25-minute session. By the way, I was really pleased to see how many of you found the 50-minute session not only doable, but that you found yourself wanting more, which is the way I always want to finish a session, and then it went relatively quickly, which is great. That is really, really useful. So day 2, oops, our first 10 minutes, always use a timer, is we are going to do a vomit draft, hence the spewing, of Act 1. So let's think about it. You have your outline. You've created your outline, right? You've made your mind map. You've created your outline. I want you to write for 10 minutes on the draft of Act 1. Now, this is, even though it's 10 minutes, this is not free writing. You're allowed to stop, right? This is, we're bringing some structure now. We've done free writing. This is writing. This is actually, should be most natural to you, right? Because this is the, you know, the, you know, the number of, you know, the writing that you do, this is typically what you would do, right? So you would do that. We've got an outline, so you know the points that you have to hit for this first part. And I want you to vomit draft. Now, there are some rules with when you're doing vomit drafts. One thing I want you to record, right, is the number of words. And I'm going to put up a post each day from day 2, day 3, and day 4, where you can put in your number of words for the 10 minutes. So how many words you get out. So it's how many words. And I want you to pop that in the chat. the only thing I'm interested in. How many words? All right. So we're going to do 10 minutes on doing part 1. Then we're going to take a 5-minute break. And then we're going to do 10 minutes of prep the steps. Oops. Steps. Prep the steps. So what we're going to do here is we are going to take 10 minutes to just be really clear on the steps that we are going to write out tomorrow. So these are the steps to solving the pain point. All right, so you think about, okay, what's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What's step 4? What's step 5? Okay, so that's what we're going to do in our second 10-minute session. So 10 minutes, vomit draft of Act 1. Now, with the vomit draft, I want you to write for 10 minutes. There is another rule. I'm glad I summarized this because this is really, really important. When professionals write, they never stop to look for information while they're in the middle of writing. They use typically, let's use a different color here. So a lot of writers, particularly journalists who have been trained journalists, typically when you come across a topic, right, and you think, oh, what's that fact or something? What the amateur will do is they will stop, right, and they will go and check the fact, right? And that is a disaster, all right, because it requires completely different parts of your brain and you ruin your writing flow. So now, I personally use XXX, but if you come from a journalism background, they use TK, TK, TK. And the reason they use TK, TK, TK is it's a rare formulation of words. It actually stands for to come, but TC is more common. So that's why. I don't know why, but hey, who knows? But they use it. So Gary Halbert used another technique. He would write something outrageous. So I remember reading a piece of copy one day. It was about a putter and golf putter. And I was reading along and it was talking about how it was constructed. And he said, and the head of this golf club is constructed from the foreskin of an orphaned white albino seal. I'm going, what? You can't write that. And he said to me, well, I don't know what it's made of. It'll be made of something, and I'm certainly not going to break the flow of what I'm writing. And if I write something outrageous, it'll be picked up in editing. So that's what he would do, right? I'm not recommending you do that, but use an XXX or a TK when you're doing your writing. Nancy asked a fantastic question. Is any degree of editing allowed in the vomit draft? And the answer is no editing at all. Just type. When I'm doing vomit drafts, I use my beloved free write, which literally does not allow you to go backwards, right? So when I'm doing it, because you're not editing, there's no editing at all, right? Because editing requires a different part of your brain. And the worst thing that schools teach children and taught all of you is that you edit as you create. It is just the worst possible thing that you could ever do, and it's just bad. And if there's one thing that I want you to write, in fact, everybody on live, and put it in the comments below, write, I promise not to edit while I am doing my vomit draft. Write that in the chat. And by the way, the vomit draft can be typed. Remember, I said from now on until I say otherwise, you can now start using your computers or iPads or whatever floats your boat. Okay, you can use that. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. I promise not to edit while doing my vomit draft. You're very good. All you people who are live, you're helping all the people who watch the replay. Thank you very much. It's crucial, right? If there's one lesson from this week, if there's one thing that I want you to learn, it's that, right? Because it's not the right time to edit. There is a time for editing. Don't worry. It's coming metaphorically tomorrow. But right now, that's not what you want to do. Okay. So the only rules of the 10-minute vomit draft is that you don't go look anything up. Just put TK, 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 or XXX, or whatever you want to do. And you certainly don't do any editing. And I want you to put the word count, and usually you can get that from Word or whatever you're using, whatever program you're using, to type the word count and put the word count in the thing. Then I want you to prep for the steps. Then in day 3, we are going to do another 25-minute session. And we are going to spend 10 minutes editing the vomit draft, the Act 1 vomit draft. Hi, fact finders. This is your day. This is your time to shine. Okay, this is absolutely your time to shine. 10 minutes, edit yourself, go nuts, smash yourself with editing. You've been desperate to edit all this time. You've been desperate to judge. I'm finally allowing you 10 minutes of judgment. So you can refine, but you must use a timer, and you have exactly 10 minutes and 10 minutes only. Reread, edit your work, delete the stuff that sounds silly, polish it, and just do it for 10 minutes, but 10 minutes only. Okay, that's all you're allowed. I'm giving you 10 minutes of judgment. Take it. Then we are going to do a 5-minute break. And I mean it. You've got 10 minutes, and that's it. Right? Too many fact finders have been lost on editing. They think they're working on Tolstoy's War and Peace, and they don't. And I'll never see them again, right? Because they just edit themselves into a frenzy. All right. So please don't do that. Just 10 minutes, right? And for us high quick starts, editing, it's your new friend. It's how you avoid silly spelling mistakes and, making sure you can figure things out. And Talking Horse has hit the nail on the head. It's also your opportunity to check out and research those TKs, right? You could also do that after the writing. I don't mind you doing that part of it, but you've got stuff to do. But yes, editing is the perfect time to go and look for those TKs, those X's, and fill those in. All right. So that's it. 10-minute editing the Act 1, the vomit draft, 5-minute break, and then 10 minutes vomit draft, Act 2, the steps. Okay, that's it. 25 minutes. Awesome. Right. There was a question I noticed there. Why do we count word count? Because we can't manage what we're not measuring. And I think it will be instructive to you. And that's why I want you to actually record it in the Facebook group. It would be a really good idea for you. There's all sorts of reasons for this, multiple reasons. And I'll just give you one just to let you know. It's like, I know, for example, when I write for 25 minutes, if I'm typing, I know I will generate between 650 and 700 words, right? Because I'm a slow typist. I know exactly how many I'll do. If I'm dictating, I know I'll do somewhere between 2,700 and 3,000 words. in 25 minutes, right? So that, right, and that's really helpful because it starts when you start to think about, okay, I need to do a blog post, and it's going to be, it's a 500-word blog post. It gives me a concept of how long I'm going to need to spend on vomit draft, on research, on all those sorts of things. We start being able to make things a process, right? And when we have some predictability around that, it helps us immensely. So it's something that's good too. And the other thing that we'll do is whenever word count is way more important than content. Word count is way more important than for a vomit draft. Way more important. Can't tell you how much more important word count is. And I bet you're going, what? Because you'll edit, right? And that's what a piece is not created. I was about to say a piece is not created when you create it. The purpose of the vomit draft is to really because what's the problem? What's the problem we're solving here? Most of you haven't created content. You've got every intention of doing it. You've always wanted to write that book. But when push comes to shove, you never do it because you're constantly making everything perfect and you're constantly trying to edit and, oh, it's not good enough and all of these sorts of things. It's a first draft, right? And what you need to do, by the way, have I said anything about this being a post or a draft? I haven't said anything. I'm just giving you instructions about what to do next, right? So just do what I say, nothing more, nothing less. All right, just do what I say. The drill that we're creating here is for you to understand that editing and content creation are two very separate activities. And unfortunately, through the 1 to 2 decades of schooling, everything you have been taught teaches you exactly the wrong way to create content. And it's only people who have been able to break out of that. And content creation for any business is going to be important. Makes sense, right? It doesn't matter what the business is. I don't care whether you're a lawyer. I don't care whether you're a mechanic. I don't care whether you're creating an information business on sausage making. I don't care if you are building sausage making machines and selling them on your e-commerce store. Content is important. It is very important, right? And frankly, you don't know how to do it. And so I'm teaching you. Okay. So that is why we're doing it. All right. So we are day 3. We've got our vomit draft of Act 2. And again, the only thing I'm interested in is word count. And I would love you to post it on the day 3 post. Okay. Word count. Number of words. Very important for all of you to do that and have a look. Just have a look at what everybody else is doing. Okay. Then guess what we're going to do on day 4? Any guesses in the chat while I write it up? What do you think day 4 looks like? Clue, it's a 25-minute session. What do you think we're going to do in that first 10 minutes? Guess what? You're totally correct. We are editing Act 2. Yes, hi, fact finders. I'm giving you 2 10-minute sessions of judgment. The first time I've allowed you to make any judgments in this entire process. 10 minutes. I'm so generous. How about that? So excited for you. Go for your life. Be as judgmental. Allow that voice in your head, which is so critical. Tell it to go nuts, right? Fire away. It's just great. And then you need 5 minutes to metaphorically wash your brain out with soap by taking a break. And then you put that judgment thing back in the box. And we're going to do 10 minutes to write Act 3. Vomit draft. Oops. Vomit draft, Act 3. Now, let me tell you one of the things, right, that as you're doing your vomit draft, this is going to happen in your brain, okay? Guaranteed. At some point, your brain's going to go, this really sucks. And you know what? Your brain is absolutely correct. It does suck. You will suck. Nothing is more certain than you suck. But guess what? Charles Dickens, he sucked. Stephen King sucks. Pablo Picasso sucks. Steve Jobs sucks dog's balls. Terrible. All of their first drafts. Have you seen the first draft where they tried to make the iPod a phone? Right? It's hilarious. It looks like, somebody from The Onion created it. Right? And what you always do, and this is worthy of an entire page. Don't compare your first draft with their, whoever that is, final draft. Right? Because everything you've seen, right, is somebody's final draft. A Gary Halbert sales letter would go through a minimum of 16 edits. Minimum 16 edits. Some I can remember up to 30 edits, right, to get it to that polished area, and you see that sales letter. But all you're seeing is edited, completed pieces of content wherever you look, right? You don't see the months that a song was worked on. You don't see, Ansel Adams took thousands of photos every single year, and his aim was to get 12 photos, one a month, that would be worthy of showing, of publishing. That was his aim, right? It is people, pros go through a lot of coal to get the diamonds, whereas amateurs think that they just have to come up with these diamonds straight off the bat. So the drills this week, while you're doing drills, but you're also doing something for a greater purpose as well, right? Volume is so important. That's why number of words is so important, right? Because the more coal that you go through, the more diamonds you're going to find, to abuse that often used metaphor. Okay. And that's what's your key lessons this week are going to be all about that. So then day 5, what are we going to do? You don't know, because Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, USA time, I'm going to show you live what to do next. Okay. Now, spoiler alert, you know what the first 10 minutes of this day is going to look like, because you'll be editing Act 3 for 10 minutes. You know you're going to be doing that, right? So that's the first thing. But then the next part, the thing. Wet Laser asks, I just realized that's how you pronounce it. So I take it Albert will create a section and edit that section a dozen times, then move to the next section. Is that more or less the process here? Absolutely not. No way. No, he would create an entire draft of the sales letter. He would do it in a different order than most people. He would start with bullets, offer, then introduction. But no, he would pretty much go through it, those 3 sections, right? So he would, not dissimilar to 3 acts. It's just he would do Act 2 first, then Act 3, then Act 1, which is often how people do things, right? Another thing that you'll figure out as you do more and more content creation is very rarely do pro content creators start at the start. It's very, very, very important. Betty asked, do we post the word count for just day one? No, all of the days you post the word count, as I wrote. You post the word count for every day of the 3 days for Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. All right, you absolutely do that. All right, folks, there you have it. Now, I would appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe button. That would be much, much appreciated. Good luck for the week ahead. Let's just remind you just again what day one is going to be. So day one is going to be editing your mind map. You're going to take a break, and then you're going to create the outline. Day two, vomit draft using all those rules, 5-minute break, and then 10 minutes of prepping the steps for day 3 or Act 2. Day 3, you're going to do 10 minutes editing the Act 1 vomit draft. You're going to take a break. You're going to do the vomit draft, Act 2, the steps, and you're going to post the word count. Day 4, you're going to edit Act 2. You're going to take the break, and I'll write in here, also add the word count. And then on day 5, Thursday in preparation, which is the day before day 5, typically, you're going to tune in live at 8 p.m. The Sunday sessions are always 8:30 p.m. The Thursday session, this Thursday session is at 8 p.m. Here on the YouTube channel to get your instructions for day 5. All right. Oh, Grave Belly, thank you very much. You're my super favorite. Much appreciated. Thank you for that. Hope you have a great week. See you around on the in the challenge group. I do have a look at all of that, so love seeing that. Have a great week. This is going to be an interesting one. Stick with the 25-minute sessions, schedule them in, make sure you treat them with respect, get into that habit, build that muscle of spending 25 minutes. And, you know, even though we've been taking it very slowly, so many of you have gotten so much further in the challenge this year than you have in the, any other challenge in the past, because we're going slow to go fast. All right, with that, ciao for now. Have fun. Go for it. Let's spew all week together. It's going to be fun. Lots of spew, and looking forward to it. All right, that's it. Ciao for now. See you on Thursday, 8 p.m. One day I'll figure out how to turn this off actually properly.